Education meeting. We're back in open session, and we'll begin by having roll call by Ms. Sawyer.
Dr. Janava Robinson.
Here.
Sharon Warden.
Here.
George Archuleta.
Here.
Virginia Houston. Present. Walter B. Jolly. Pam Pereza. Here. And Dr. Sheila Williams. Here. Thank you.
Thank you. We now have our superintendent's report. Dr. Edmonds.
Chair Robinson, Vice Chair Warden, and board members, good evening. Dr. Robinson, I will do the first part of my superintendent's report from here, because the first part of that report is recognition of our board members for their service to the board. That will be you, Dr. Robinson, and Mr. Jolly. And so I'm going to stand, and I don't know if you want to stand as I share a little bit about Mr. Walter B. Jolly in his service to the Board of Education. Mr. Jolly has served as a board member of the Elizabeth City Pasquotank Board of Education since 2012. He has served as committee chair for personalized education as well as policy. Mr. Jolly worked in education for 50 years, retiring as a principal from Elizabeth City Pasquotank Public Schools in 2010. We are grateful for Mr. Jolly's dedication to children, staff in this community. Thank you, Mr. Jolly, for all of your work, not only on this Board of Education, but to your many years of service to the students and staff in Elizabeth City Pasquotank Public Schools. And so if you would come forward, and you have a guest with you, we would like to get, and I think put here, right here in front. Yes, you can come, Mr. Jolly, come through here. Yeah, right here. Okay, Jamie, direct. Okay, so which way there? I got to sit it here. Okay. Oh, okay, all right. I'm sorry, I was not supposed to touch that, but Mr. Jolly, if you would pick up your plaque. And Dr. Robinson, if you would stand to one side and get your plaque and turn that way so that Mr. Jackson Hurd can get your photos. And you can kind of, I'm going to take care and get us straight.
A little bit more.
Mr. Jolly, I don't know if you would like to have a few words, but we certainly appreciate your service.
Mr. Jolly. I have. Okay.
I'd like to say this. It's been a lot of fun. A great gift being able to work with y'all and to do energy times for children and making sure that we have the very, very best for our children. It is the most important thing in the lives of people, the life and the education that we're going to present to our kids, and for them to extend that on into the next generation and the generation after that. So it's been a great pleasure. And thank y'all for allowing me to come and be with you. I love this because each individual in here, we all had a different mode about education. Thank you. And thank you for everything that you do for children. And especially thanks to my wife for all that you do each and every day. I'm gonna miss y'all. Don't worry, I'll honk the horn. Say, what's going on now? Yeah. Thank you, thank you.
have something I want to share. We will miss you, Mr. Jolly. I have loved sitting on a board with a jolly old elf. He made us all look at things in a joyful, meaningful way. Buck Jolly, a man of truth and conviction, sees a world beyond himself. He believes in the magic of children and listens with his heart to what they have to say. A decision was made to step aside, and I think we all can agree Mr. Jolly deserves the opportunity to slide. He says he wants to travel. He finally bought a new vehicle after all. And we are certain he will share his wisdom along the way. Like all retired educators, he has many stories to tell, and he deserves to take life easy day by day. We will all miss you, my friend. And if you had an email, good wishes and greetings we could always send. But we know that you believe in face-to-face and back porch talks.
Love that.
So we will stop by when we can and hopefully see you around town as we take our daily walks.
Thank
We
you.
love you, Mr. Jolly.
Thank you.
Got a little book in here that highlights special travel spots. So when you finally take it on the road, you can make sure you check out all those places. And know how much you love Wake Forest.
So big.
So got your Wake Forest mask.
Thank you.
Thank you again, Mr. Jolly. Our next board recognition is Dr. Donavo Robinson. Dr. Robinson has served as a member of the Elizabeth City Pasquotank Board of Education since 2014. Dr. Robinson has served as committee chair for personalized education, financial, business, and technology systems. He served as vice chair for the board and this year has served as our board chair. Dr. Robinson retired in 2018 as the Chief Executive Officer for Albemarle Smart Start Partnership for Children. We are grateful for Dr. Robinson's service to children, staff in our community. Thank you, Dr. Robinson, for all you have given in service to others. And thank you so much for the special attention that you have paid to our students in their early learning. We know those are important years. Cannot thank you enough for your service. So thank you. And our other Dr. Robinson would come around and share. Yes, on this side.
Oh.
Yep, okay. Thank you again, Dr. Robinson, and would you like to have a few words?
It has been an honor, a pleasure, one of the highlights of my life. You know, this whole things that we've gone through the last 5 or 6 years have helped to bring us together, but it's also helped us to identify what's important for our system, who's the best people to have there, and we haven't lost track of why we here, and it's all about the children. And making sure that they're getting the best quality education that they can. And I leave this board knowing that this is the name. That the two young men coming on, and all of you are going to be carrying on, doing what's going to be best for our children, for generations to come. I just want to thank you for allowing me to be here with you for a little while. Enjoyed it, and you know, it's a beautiful future. And because I'm gone, I still have a phone, I still have email, it's love to kind of stay in touch with all of you. So thank you very much for all that you do.
And Mr. Gordon has something for you.
Couldn't get something out of my mind with you. I kept thinking of that song, you know, and here's to you, Mrs. Robinson. So I've kind of done a little play off on that. Here's to you, Dr. Robinson. And I would sing it, but we'll just skip that. And here's to you, Dr. Robinson. You're so much cooler than you know. Whoa, whoa, whoa. We thank you much, Dr. Robinson. Thank you much for your leadership and time. We would like you to know you'll be missed, so we'd like to help you stay engaged. Look around you. You'll see vacancies for subs. You can stroll down the very halls that you love. And here's to you, Dr. Robinson. You could work your way through pre-K. Hey, hey, hey. Again, we thank you, Dr. Robinson, for the many hours you've given to our schools. We're asking you to enjoy your free time with Jan. And please do not forget to reach out when you can. And not just for that extra salad or piece of pie. Please don't forget, we need positive male role models. So find a new gratifying place in some young child's eye. Here's to you, Dr. Robinson. We truly hope to see and feel your coolness around. We all know there's only so long great minds can stay down. So thank you, Dr. Robinson, as you leave the board. Please know you made a difference. And as always, we will move forward. And got you something from Montero's. I know you like to eat.
Yes.
And you can opt to take Jan if you'd like. Leave her home.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Thank you again, Dr. Robinson.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Chair Robinson, Vice Chair Warden, and board members, the next part of my superintendent's report will be an update on our return to campus efforts, as well as some information on our testing, on the state testing and where we are. There we go. As you remember, these are the times when we started. So our pre-K and elementary schools have been in now for about 25 days. Our middle schools have been in, I think, about 15, and high school has been in 10 days. And we know we've had some issues with flooding in the county. So out of those days, we've had one of those days where the students had an extra day of remote status. Next slide, please. Thank you. And this is just a refresher of what our days look like with our schools. We know that our elementary and pre-K students come 4 days a week, and our middle school has cohort A and cohort B. That's 2 days for each of those cohorts. And our high schools are coming 1 block per day. And I must say that that has become a popular schedule. We have other counties that are now replicating that 1 block per day to cut down on the transition in the hallways for high schools. We know that high schools are challenging in terms of that transition time. And we are still working very closely, next slide, with our Albemarle Regional Health Services as well as the ABC Science Collaborative as we look at how do we determine when we need to quarantine or when we have a positive case. You will notice that whenever we do have a positive case, we send out communication to the school staff and to the families, but we also put a pop-up on our website that stays on there for 3 days so that our community can see when we have a positive case within the district. And we also have our dashboard that you can go online and look at our dashboard to see the cases if we've had positive cases and where they're located. So in our elementary schools, what you'll see, you can go to the next slide. What you'll see is that we have seen not a lot of shift in terms of our students attending. And the last column is our October percent of students that are face-to-face. So you can see our pre-K in October, we had 54%. We're now up to 57%. So we do have that wait list that our principals are working through. Most of our enrollment has stayed pretty stable, maybe losing a point here or gaining a percentage point there. And for our middle schools that I've been in for 15 days, you can see that we have about 37% of our students from Elizabeth City Middle School that are participating in some face-to-face, and 33% of our students from River Road. And then for our high schools, you can see that we have about 14% from the early college and 15% from Northeastern. And the percentage that we have from Pasquotank High School, I cannot read that from here, it looks like 22%. And so some of the things that we've seen that have been very positive as we have participated in the return to campus is that our staff and our students are following the safety guidelines. And we've heard from several parents that they really appreciate that they can send their students to the schools with peace of mind, knowing that we have those safety protocols in place and that they are being followed. One of the pieces that we're looking at as well is the testing and accountability at the state level and our local level. We know that testing for our middle and high schools will occur next month. We do have some flexibility around that piece in terms of, do we test in December or can we waive that until the spring? And the purpose of being able to waive the testing until the spring is that if at the federal level testing is waived, then we would not have put students through undue stress. And when we look at our number of EOC and CTE courses and the percent of our students that are actually participating face-to-face, we see that there's a very low number that are actually face-to-face, but we as a district, well, all school districts would still be held to that 95% rule. That means you have to have at least 95% of your students participating in testing for it not to count against the district. Well, if the students are in remote status, we cannot make them come to school to test. We can strongly encourage them to come to the building to test. And we've heard, you know, from some of the superintendents in the region and across the state that parents have said, I chose to stay in remote status because I don't feel it's safe for my child, but now you're going to ask me to bring them onto the campus. And so that's another piece that we're looking at. And we are looking at potentially having some flexibility around that 20% rule at the state level, and it's a 25% rule here in the local district, that the EOC and the CTE course, the exams will count that percentage of the students' grades. So I don't have any recommendations or actions that I want the board to take this evening, but Dr. Spencer, our Chief Academic Officer, will come before you in December as we get more clarity around these pieces to ask the board for some, she'll make some recommendations in some of these areas that we have some flexibility in prior to our students having to test. And that concludes my the superintendent's update. Thank you.
Any questions for Dr. Edmonds? If no questions, thank you, Dr. Edmonds. Next item on our agenda is the approval of our minutes for October 26, 2020. You should have the minutes at your place. They were sent to you. If you're ready, I'll entertain a motion to accept those minutes.
I'll second that.
It's been properly moved and second. Any further discussion on the minutes? We will vote via roll call. Ms. Sawyer?
Sharon Warden,
Aye.
George Archuleta,
Aye.
Virginia Houston,
Aye.
Walter B. Jolly,
Aye.
Pam Pereza, Dr. Sheila Williams.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. The motion carries. It's my understanding that we don't have anyone for our citizens' comments this evening. Thank you. We'll now move to our committee reports. Committee Chair Sharon Warden for Finance, Business, and Technology Systems. Thank you, Ms. Warden.
Thank you, Dr. Robinson. First is the maintenance roof report and capital project update. And we have Ms. Wilkins here, remotely here. If you have any questions about any of those items, she will entertain those at this time. Are there any particular items you want to point out, Ms. Wilkins?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So we'll just wait to see if someone has questions.
Okay.
Hey, I'm assuming there aren't any questions about any of this. Okay, thank you, Ms. Wilkins.
Thank you.
All right, and now we're going to hear from our Chief Finance Officer, Ms. Haynes.
Chair Robinson, Vice Chair Warden, Superintendent Edmonds, and board members, good evening. Committee Chair Warden, Finance has only a few items this evening. The first is, in your packet, is FBT 03. This is the rental report for informational purposes. Pasquotank County High School has one rental scheduled in December with the American Red Cross for blood drive. Are there any questions?
Do you know anything about that, how it went?
It's upcoming in December.
Oh, it is.
This one is
Oh
Pasquotank
gosh, I'm
County.
sorry. All right. I see that.
Moving on to the second item in your packet, this is for action. It's attachment number FBT04, and this is the amendments for this month. The first one in your packet is Budget Amendment 102, it's for the State Public School Fund. And it shows an overall increase of $1,011,329. And the increase is largely due to the position conversion for our IFE teachers and the state allotted bonuses. It also takes into account reductions of $140,365 due to charter enrollment increases. And we've received additional coronavirus relief funds of $186,560. $87,789 of that for exceptional children, and $98,771 for PPE. The second amendment in your packet is amendment number 302 for the federal grants fund, and it shows an overall increase to the budget of $11,154. This is for an additional allotment in PRC 017 CTE program involvement. The final amendment is amendment number 802 in the local special revenue fund, and it shows an overall increase of $295,948.35 to budget the fund balance for Channel 8 and other instructional programs. Are there any questions on the amendment? Ms. Wynn, did you want us to take action on this or do all of the items?
I'll take action on all the items at the same time.
Okay. The final item is attachment FBT 05, and this is the list of fundraisers that have been submitted this month. We're requesting these be approved pending the fundraising plan submitted for each of these is approved by the superintendent's office. Committee Chair Warden, that concludes my report.
Okay. Before we take action on the school calendar revisions, let's take action on these two financial items. The budget amendments 102, 302, and 802, and the school fundraisers items. May I have a motion to approve those items? And a
I'll
second?
second it.
Okay. Any discussion? All right. May we have a roll call for that approval, please?
Karen Warden,
Aye.
George Archuleta,
Aye.
Virginia Houston. Aye. Walter Jolly,
Aye.
Pam Pereza. Aye. Dr. Sheila Williams. Aye. Thank you.
And now we're going to move on to the school calendar revisions. Ms. James Davis.
Chair Robinson, Vice Chair Warden, and Chair of this committee. I'm coming to you with the calendar revisions for both our traditional calendar and also the calendars for the early college. For our traditional calendars, we had 4 early release days remaining this school year. And so they were different times, different days of the week other than Wednesdays. So we want to move those to Wednesdays, where there's a remote learning day already in place, and that's when we will do our professional development. And then on the early college schedule, we changed December the 3rd remote learning day to December the 2nd, so it can be reflective on what the rest of the district is doing. And also, we needed to change, again, their graduation date. We did have a date change before, but there was a conflict in the schedule when they could actually get the auditorium at COA. And so that was the date that's available now. That date is on June the 22nd, which is on a Saturday, so you're not going to see it on the actual calendar. I'm sorry, it's got to be May. I have a feeling, but it's May. Any questions?
Okay, if there are no questions about these changes, may I have a motion to accept these? And a second? Okay, and a second, please? We'll have a vote by roll call.
Karen Warden,
Aye.
George Archuleta,
Aye.
Virginia Houston. Walter Jolly, Pam Pereza, Dr. Sheila Williams.
And now, Dr. Robinson, the December organizational meeting.
On December 7th, here at Pascatank Elementary School at 4 p.m., which is a changing of time took it back an hour or so to allow people to be able to view it and to be present. But at that meeting, we will be welcoming and swearing in Mr. Walton and Mr. Spence as new board members, as well as elections for our chair and vice chair. So that will happen on December 7th, 4 p.m. here at Passac Elementary School.
We need to take action because that was a change. So may I have a motion on that, please? And then a second.
Roll call. Sharon Warden,
Aye.
George Archuleta,
Aye.
Virginia Houston, Walter B. Jolly, Pam Pereza, Dr. Sheila Williams. Aye.
Okay, and the last item for my committee is some updates on cybersecurity. Ms. Godfrey, our Director of Technology, and Ms. Haynes, our Chief Financial Officer.
One second. Okay. Out some information about our cybersecurity insurance. Presentation kind of regarding what we have, how we are for cybersecurity and cyber attacks. So I'm going to kind of go kind of what, because we are country world are doing many more things online. We increased problem with ransomware. Actually increased 2014, which is a pretty substantial increase. The average,
Ms. Godfrey,
yes. You can't hear me.
you're breaking up.
They're going to ask her to come in. Ask her to come in.
Okay.
All right, hang on. All right, we're gonna try this again. Okay, so Tammy is gonna do my slides for me. I'm assuming that she can hear me. So we're talking about the new norm. school districts as well as the public sector have seen a large increase in data breaches and ransomware attacks since we've begun to do so many more things online. In 2020, there were 5 North Carolina school districts that were hit with ransomware just since January of this year. And in 2019, there was only 1 North Carolina school district that reported ransomware attack. We've had a substantial amount increase just in this year. Next slide. Oh, here she comes. I think she's good. All right, let's talk about ransomware. So real quick, ransomware is basically a form of malware that encrypts files or takes files. It allows you to get viruses, worms, trojans, many things that are harmful to your computer programs that hackers try to get into your system or your network. The attackers usually demand a ransom. In other words, they want money back from the school district or the public sector in order for you to be able to get your data back. And what they do with that is they ask you to pay the fee so that you get an encryption key to be able to decrypt your data. So ransomware attackers, they're very successful in not just small counties and big counties, but pretty much they don't care where you are in the state of North Carolina or any other state or school district in the country. Their attacks have increased because so many things are dependent now on computers, and the cyber attackers are beginning to start to prey on school districts because of our increased need for virtual learning. One of the things that they are now preying on is because we have moved into the COVID world and everybody wants to read information and updates about COVID-19. So they start to disguise things in emails about COVID-19 or different things about the coronavirus. So in 2019, there were 62 cases nationwide compared to only 11 that were in 2018 where ransomwares were attacked at school districts. And they are continually aware, hackers and attackers, that we as school districts, and not just the school districts, but public sector as well, that we want to try and seek information so that they try to get us and prey upon us. We have an increase in phishing attacks and malware in our emails. That people are trying to register their domains underneath coronavirus and COVID-19, and they're continuing to try to attack our VPN networks that you use at home learning to try and get back into our internal networks. Just recently, there was a county in North Carolina where a school staff member had a laptop at home. They used it at their home network. They had admin rights to the laptop. They brought the laptop back into the school district attached to the school network. The network had not been running patches on their system for their updates. And when they connected back to their network, the school system basically had to shut down. They ended up having to be out of school for a week and work with the FBI, the National Guard, and North Carolina Department of Information Technology to try and control the outbreak of what they had with their ransomware attack. This was within the past 6 months. So what we're doing is we're making sure that doesn't happen to us. So basically, it's just risk management 101. So basically, understanding your risk, making sure that your staff are educated on what the possible attacks are, making sure that we have software that's updated, that we're backing up our data, that we're making sure that our personnel is securing personal information, that we're using password protection policies, and that we're making sure that we're educating people about things on social media. So specifically, what we have in ECPPS are the firewall that we have is provided by the North Carolina Department of Information Technology. which is the firewall. So they also help us manage that. We use Zscaler as a web filtering, which is what all students and staff have to sign into in order to be able to use our network. We also do automatic updates within our Google policies to prevent malware from our email. We also have very few admin users on laptops and mobile devices, where standard users are not able to download additional softwares. And then we also have our antivirus software that updates daily. We continually to do patches daily. Anytime someone logs onto our network, they will receive the latest and updated patch. All servers are updated automatically. We do cloud backup with Barracuda nightly from each of our school servers. We have actually just gone into the last two with the AVA and Akamai Enterprise for internal scanning as well as DNS scanning on our network. We have an audit that's coming up in January to just make sure to go over again with MCNC. There's nothing additional that we can do. So I'm looking forward to having some more conversations with them. But Mr. John Wharf at MCNC has assured me that we are doing everything that we can to try and prevent attacks and hackers from having issues with ransomware. Any questions? And then the last thing we wanted to kind of talk about was, how are we insured against ransomware? And Ms. Haynes passed out some information with you from Victor Insurance. Basically, we have we're covered for 3 different areas with our cyber insurance. We're covered for breach liability. I can't read that. Breach rectification, digital crime, and then we have an aggregate limit of $1 million. If you have any additional information about or questions about our cyber insurance, she might be able to answer those. But, I know that she's been working with them to see if there were things that we needed to add as well. They are working with districts across the state, just like they do with us for cyber insurance. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Godfrey. There are no questions for her? Okay, that concludes our report.
Thank you very much, Ms. Warden. We appreciate that. Our next committee report is Ms. Virginia Houston for Global Citizens and Healthy Students. Ms. Houston.
Good evening, everybody. We have information tonight on from the athletic department on COVID, and that will be given to us by Dr. Jared Miller, physician, senior care, orthopedic and sports medicine. Dr. Miller?
Dr. Miller, I'm not sure if you can hear us, but Committee Chair Houston, Ms. Houston has asked that you move forward with your presentation.
Sure, thank you. Sorry, I couldn't hear. So thank you for having me this evening. Dr. Edmonds asked me to join to give a little update on the COVID return to play protocol. So as you know, as we reintroduce sports throughout the state of North Carolina, unfortunately, we hope and we pray that we never come into contact with this, but we will have young student athletes who test positive for COVID. And the concern around this is, how do we safely return those student athletes back to sport? We have wonderful protocols in place for things like concussions and return to play protocols for those student athletes. But as we continue to learn more about COVID, we don't really have a great nationwide program to get these kids back safely to competition. So there are some best practices, so to speak, and consensus statements and essentially expert opinion on how we get student athletes back safely. Unfortunately, as a medical community, we just simply do not know long-term potential risks for our student athletes who come in contact with COVID. So with that being said, I worked with some folks down at East Carolina University and some other physicians throughout the state, and we developed a medical management protocol to return our student athletes back to competition. So I hope that you were given the protocol to review, but essentially we have different pathways, whether it be a student athlete who was simply exposed to COVID versus a student athlete who actually tested positive. And then we have guidelines that, again, are essentially expert opinion on how to return those student athletes safely. We believe strongly that there has to be a certain amount of time that you have to rest after you develop symptoms. We also believe there's a certain amount of time that you should be symptom-free but before you return back. And then there's good expert opinion to believe that we should have some type of return to play protocol in place for the student athletes before we let them return to sport. So one question that commonly arises is, if the student athletes meet the Department of Health and Human Services guidelines for return to school, why didn't we need to do extra for the athletes? And the answer to that is, while we hope that learning is an active process, it's quite different than being on a football field and being engaged in contact activity. So what we've done, if you look towards the back of the protocol, is the student athlete that tests positive for COVID actually will go through a graduated return to play with their athletic trainer at their high school. It takes you through 8 stages, which goes from very light activity all the way back to competition in their respective sport. We have pathways for the athletic trainers to follow to help them navigate the students through this process. By no means do we believe that this protocol is 100% set in stone. As a medical community, as we learn more, we will adapt and adjust. But as of right now, we would much rather be proactive than reactive. We want to do our best to keep your student athletes safe so that they can compete. And so that was the rationale behind coming up with this protocol. So that's essentially an overview of why we feel this is important. If there are specific questions or if there are things you'd like me to elaborate on, I'm happy to go forward with that.
You have the information here in your PowerPoint for you. If you have any further questions, just ask them all. Thank you so much, Dr. Moore, for your time. We appreciate your sharing with us tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Edmonds, will move to you for the athletic update.
Chair Robinson, Vice Chair Warden, Committee Chair Houston. I come before you this evening to share with you an update on our high school sports, as well as give some information on middle school sports. I was waiting to see if the PowerPoint was going to come up. If it doesn't, it's okay. But I wanted you to see the pictures of our high school athletes playing volleyball. It was just so nice to see students back in school and participating in athletics. Tammy, is she gonna be able to get that up? Oh, okay. Okay, I'll move forward with the presentation and hopefully she'll be able to get that up before the end so that you can see our athletes participating in the sports. As we looked at return to play, as Dr. Miller has shared, we've had our trainers on site working with our athletes. And some of the things that the high schools have shared with us that were successes as they return to play is that all guidelines that were implemented were being followed. So they had to do plans for return to sports and what it would look like in terms of guests coming into the gym and taking temperatures and the protocols from the time they step on the campus, participate in the event, and they were to leave. And so those protocols were implemented and they were being followed. They had custodians there to sanitize the restrooms. All of the student athletes had their mask on properly, and the spectators sat 6 feet apart as they stayed 6 feet apart as they entered and exited the gym. The trainer, athletic trainer, screened all the spectators, staff, and student athletes while they were practicing social distancing. And they were able to live stream the games on Facebook Live. And staff did a fantastic job at the gate directing parents and the media into the gym. And they limited the spectators to the parents. And they did that in advance of the competition. And so each player received one ticket for a family member to attend. And they started with the seniors. And then after that, the tickets were pre-sold. And then any remaining tickets went to students. So students had an opportunity to come in and enjoy the sporting events. And well, some of the things that were a little bit of a challenge is that we had to remind the opposing team, some of the folks that were with them to put the mask over their nose. And some additional support was needed for the live streaming. They had a little bit of an issue getting started with the live streaming of the games. And as we look at middle schools, so hats off to our high schools for their great job in their first athletic competition. And Pasquotank High School had their first competition this evening. As we have looked at the middle school athletics is not governed by the North Carolina High School Athletic Association. So we have to look to the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services for that information. And they've given us a list of sports that they deem low risk, all the way up to those that are deemed high risk. And so that came out on October the 7th. And some of the things that are considered low risk, and they recommend limiting sports activities to those in which participants can maintain social distancing or close contact is limited or brief. And that would be in areas like golf, swimming, diving, dance, tennis with single matches. We don't have horseback riding. I'm just going to read from the list. Figure skating, running, weightlifting, individual gymnastics, badminton, and kayaking. And for certain sports for which close contact may occur but not prolonged, DHHS recommends playing outside if possible, wearing a face covering if they can be tolerated, and limiting tournaments in which multiple teams convene. And that would be soccer, baseball, crew, tennis double match, non-contact lacrosse, volleyball, softball, swimming relays, group swimming, and field hockey. DHHS does not recommend sports activities for which participants cannot maintain social distancing and close contact is frequent and or prolonged. And those would be football, contact lacrosse, rugby, group dance, pairs figure skating, competitive cheer, basketball, wrestling, hockey, and boxing. So we have an athletic director from the area that worked with some of the ADs to put together a schedule. And that schedule had them playing for the fall, November 4th through December 18th, which would have been baseball, softball, track, and field. Well, we were not addressing middle school sports at that time, and so I did not bring that to the board. For the winter, they have on the schedule January the 5th through February 26th, basketball, cheer, and wrestling. Well, those are the three that are in the category that the HHS does not recommend that our students participate in because of the high risk. And then for spring, March 1st through May 14th, they have cheer, football, golf, soccer, volleyball. And so the volleyball would be one, in golf that they do not consider high risk. And so at this time, I'm not making any recommendations, but as we see the trends of COVID-19 in the area and in the state, I will come back to the board in December and we can look at the trends because we still have some time before that January 5th date. So yes. Yeah, it was from Moyoc. Yeah. I think they all got together at middle school and put together a schedule because the local boards of education have to put the schedules together for the middle school because they're not governed by the North Carolina High School Athletic Association. And so I think they took it upon themselves working with other middle school ADs to put that schedule together. And that is correct. In the past, that has been the case, but because of COVID-19, the North Carolina High School Athletic Association has said to us that, to the state, that they do not govern middle school and that the local education agencies have to make those calls for them. And so we turn to DHHS that looks at amateur sports and our middle school sports for COVID. But typically, you're absolutely right.
Where are we with high school football
That will
at
not.
this point?
Yeah, so they are doing the board has given them approval to do the conditioning piece, but it will not start until, I think January or February, or maybe later than that, I can't remember. The calendar is actually on that PowerPoint, I think, but, that's not up there. But we're coming back, I'll come back to the board. So we did put our name on the list with, for basketball, for the spring sport. So we have our name on the list, but before our athletes participate, I'll come back before the board and get, approval from the board for them to participate based on the COVID trends at the time.
And what else, is cross country going on now?
Yes.
Okay. How is that going?
It's going well. They posted some pictures of that too, and they were all socially distanced and practicing the safety protocols. It has gone well.
And that's at both schools, Pasquotank and,
Mhm. Yes,
okay.
that's at both schools. Right. That is correct. You did. Right. So band is not, because band falls under curriculum. And so no, band would not be allowed to play. Their instrument, drum line could play, but not any instrument where they have to blow in, they cannot play those. But cheerleading, you're absolutely right. They are considered entertainment, so they are not a part of that 25. Yes. Yes. Mhm. And we can still have 25 spectators, although the governor's orders has said 10 to gather inside. We can still have, right, so we can have 25. Committee Chair Houston, that concludes mine. I don't have anything for action this time.
Thank you, Committee Chair Houston. We appreciate that report. Our next committee report is our policy code. Chair Walter B. Jolly. Mr. Jolly.
We went out and on your schools and the area of the superintendent and board of education. We'd like to call her to the floor.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair Robinson, Vice Chair Warden, Superintendent Edmonds, and board members. I come before you this evening to request the board approve the following policy updates as recommended by the North Carolina School Boards Association. These policies were presented during the October meeting for your review and consideration. Policy 3610, Counseling Program. 4152, Unsafe School Choice Transfer. 4325, Drugs and Alcohol. 6306, school bus idling. 6325, parking areas for students. 7240, drug-free and alcohol-free workplace. 7241, drug and alcohol testing of commercial motor vehicle operators. 7500, workday and overtime. 7505, compliance with the State Board of Education employment policies. 7510, leave. And 7540, voluntary shared leave. Policy 7900, resignation, was included in the policies for approval this evening. However, staff will have further edits to this particular policy and will bring it before you in December for consideration. The following policy updates are presented for an initial review by the board. The policy updates are recommended by the North Carolina School Boards Association. The fall policy updates, which are in one attachment for you, and policy 3227/7322, webpage development. That concludes the policy request for this evening.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jolly. I'll entertain a motion to accept the report from the Global Citizens, from the Policy Code Committee. Probably moved and second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye according to roll call.
Sharon Warden.
Aye.
George Archuleta.
Aye.
Virginia Houston. Walter Jolly. Pam Pereza. And Dr. Sheila Williams. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jolly. Our next committee report is Ms. Pam Pereza for our excellent educators. Ms. Pereza. It's been properly moved in second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye according to roll call. Ms. Sawyer.
Sharon Warden.
Aye.
George Archuleta.
Nay.
Virginia Houston. Walter Jolly. Pam Pereza. Dr. Sheila Williams. Thank you.
Thank you. Committee report carries. Thank you, Ms. Pam Perez. We now have board member reports. Are there any board members who would like to have anything to say? Thank you. Thank you.
And I hate to say, I mean, I know, I'm gonna say dear president,
Mhm.
and, this has been my pleasure. And Mr. Jolly, you're an actual guy. I won't count you. But it has certainly been a pleasure working with you prior to this in the school system, and now for both of you on the school board. I've gained a lot from you, son. I shall miss you a lot, and I know we are going to move forward, but it sure won't be the same.
Mr. Joe, I was a new person on here, but I want to thank you. I know we had some talks, but I do. I respect you for what, you said, and I thank you. And Dr. Robinson, you've been like a mentor to me, so I want to say thank you. I know I haven't always been a good student, but anyway, I do thank you. Can I also say one other thing? I know, but I'm thinking of Angela Cobb and the high school as all Northeastern. Their, was it their instructional coach that retired too? they've left, and I know they've lost some important positions to retirement over the last few months. And I want to say I thank them for what they did at Northeastern High School and what's happened there at that school. And I think it's just been positive, and I hope that whoever goes on forward will carry that on. So I thank them all, and Ms. Cobb, her leadership especially.
Before you mention that, I'd like to throw in out here. Graduation. They gave us private section of, and the extent she had those children being recognized. And I think I know a parent that was in one of the cars that night. But thank you for it.
And I just want to thank you both of you. Of course, you were on the board when I came on. And I learned a lot, but I realized being on the board for years, you continue to learn. Because there's always something going on. I am sure that you need to go and do other things. And with other impressions of the place, that's what it is for your team.
Thank you. I would just like to thank this board again for just allowing me to be a part of you and being a part of just the system. And I think we're in a good place. I'm really happy about the direction that we're going in. I know that you all will continue to take us and move us forward. Anyone else? Anything else that we need to discuss for the good of the system? If not, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment. Properly moved.
I'll second that.
And second, double second, triple second. All those in favor say aye in unison, according to roll call. Aye, aye, aye. Thank you.
Sharon Morton, George Archuleta,
Aye.
Virginia Houston, Walter Jolly,
Aye.
Pam Pereza, and Dr. Sheila Williams. Thank you.
Aye. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.